Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you again for being before us, and congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you, Senator.
Yeah. You know, I think that, as you can tell from this committee and really the country is divided on a lot of the issues in and around involving what you're endeavoring to headline here at the EPA. But I think that understanding one another is extremely important, no matter how many times I might say the same thing and somebody else on the other side might say the same thing. It gives me a greater understanding of where they live and how they think the best way to pursue environmental issues are. So in the crowd that just joined us here after lunch are several coal miners who traveled all morning, have been waiting in the hall and made some new friends in the audience there, and I want to thank them for coming, because those are the faces of the issues that I try to address when we're talking about the different facets of the regulatory environment that we see that's been put forth over the last several years. So this question's for you all. In my very first hearing as a United States Senator on this committee, we had the Assistant Administrator, Janet McCabe. She came to testify about EPA's CO2 rules. When I pressed her about why, in the public meetings on the existing plant rules, EPA had not bothered to come to West Virginia, or for that matter, any of the other states that most heavily rely on coal for electricity generation, this is what she said, and I quote, "We tried to. When we were scheduling national-level meetings, we wanted to have those in locations where people were comfortable coming." Well, Mr. Attorney General, I want you to be comfortable coming anywhere in this country to talk about whether it's Rhode Island or whether it's West Virginia, Alaska. People need to know that you're listening and you care and that you're understanding the ramifications for the decisions that you make. So this didn't sit very well for me. We had a meeting after that in Beckley, West Virginia, which is the birthplace of the ranking member. And we had Bo Copley there, who was a laid-off coal miner. He talked about, you know, all the hardships of his friends and neighbor. We had the county commissioner who talked about the loss of revenue to the county and how it's impacting the school systems and the real estate values and the bankruptcies of all of the different coal companies and people who have been out of work. So I would implore you to commit today to visit West Virginia, both sides of West Virginia, and to talk to our coal miners and their families, to talk about what the job and economic impacts and how we can work together with both sides to try to get to the intended goal of cleaner air and cleaner water.
Senator, I really appreciate you sharing that. And that's the reason I mentioned in my opening statement the importance of listening and leading. This process that I've been a part of obviously is very new, but I spent time with each of you, many of you, in individual meetings, and Senator Gillibrand talked about issues that were important to her around CERCLA. You've cited concerns and issues that are important to you in West Virginia. I think it's very important, if confirmed as administrator, that I spend time responding, learning, and listening to you in your respective states and trying to be helpful with regard to the environmental issues that you face.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you. I'd like to just get some clarification on a topic that kind of has been coming up about how many times you as Attorney General have sued the EPA. And you began your statement by saying that the rule of law is very important to you. And then you talked about several of the cases, and probably most of the cases that you brought forward, is not challenging the regulations so much as the process or whether the rule of law has been overstepped and the boundaries of the EPA has been the intent of Congress by legislating to the EPA has been overstepped. And the courts have agreed in some cases that this is the case. Could you kind of restate that position on the different actions?
Well, Senator, as I've indicated, I think in response to Senator Sullivan, probably more so than most statutes that are passed by Congress, this body has recognized the very important and vibrant role that the states play in partnership with the EPA at implementing and enforcing our environmental statutes. And many of you have talked about that in your offices, how your DEQ works with the regional administrator. And so when we talk about rule of law, as you deal with mercury, as you deal with CO2, as you deal with water issues around WOTUS and the definition, in those cases, it's important that you do so consistent with the framework that's been established by this body. And it's respected because that gives confidence to the people that are regulated. You know, when you have an administrative agency of any type that acts inconsistent or tries to enlarge its authority, it really doesn't inspire confidence in those that are regulated, that you're seeing a matter of picking winners and losers and being against certain things as opposed to protecting people. And so that rule of law is not something that's academic in my view. It's not something that's just legal. I think it's important to ensuring good outcomes as far as improving our air and protecting our waters.
Thank you.